I do agree with what has been told about the empathy and the entrepreneurial thing, but I would like to stress more on the entrepreneurial aspects. So CK always used to tell, don't simply follow best practices. They were best yesterday, but tomorrow they may be best, may not be. So you have to invent next practices. That was always used to tell, invent next practice. In fact, I wanted to name my company as Next Practice. Unfortunately, the registrar of companies could not give it. And that's why I said Next Wealth, not creating wealth, not as a money, but wealth in a broader sense, doing that one. So I would say the people who can think of next practices has to be entrepreneur, besides having empathy. So the people are telling, Ravi was telling you to be a dreamer. Who is a dreamer? Simply, everybody can dream, it doesn't cost anything. But to dream something which can be implemented with a very low probability but can be implemented is the real dream. So not to simply dream that I became a king or I became a education. So today, when we set up these centers and we see these graduates working in these centers, women graduates, it's amazing. We had this girl who passed her examination. She belongs to Muslim community, and she wanted to work. The parents did not allow. She stopped eating at home and creating a lot of ruckus. So the parents went and asked the principal, "What do we do with this guy?" So the principal said that you didn't have a problem for her to go to school in the campus. Yes. So the center is in the campus. You go and see yourself, and there's no problem. So they came and saw people working and women and all the things. Reluctantly agreed to attend the next to the center, first center, at a place called Mallasamaka between Salem and Erode in Tamil Nadu. And within few months, the girl became the highest performing person. And most of the people, not most, almost everyone, their first month's salary is more than their dad's salary. And we found a survey, we did a survey after 1 year of their working here. So what's your life today versus what's your life 1 year ago, relatively? Because somebody who has already a bicycle, buying a bicycle is not a great thing. So the results are astonishing. Most 90% of the salary of girls was spent on the family. Okay. Either siblings' education or paying the rent or sharing some of the expenses, some of those things. On the other hand, boys spent only 40%. It's less than expected. Okay. But another point that one is, but for this job, would have got married by now and sent to another small town and forget about our graduation. So most important, they told that the respect they get within the house, respect they get in the environment is more than the money they are making. One of the girls had written, look, I don't know when I get my next pair of clothes. Maybe a festival, if my father had money, and he will buy what he wants to buy, he can afford to buy, and I have to wear it. Today I buy branded clothes of my choice, and I buy for my parents. That's the change which is taking place.
It's hard to disagree with the empathy and entrepreneurship. I would add another quality which we look at very hard when we decide to back people, and that's tenacity. Okay? See, India is a tough place to do anything. So, what should take 1 year takes 3 years normally. And then when you go into the BOP where the conditions are really, really tough and infrastructure doesn't exist, talent, your seasoned talent is hard, it is really, really tough. So you need, if you're going to be successful, you have to have that, do or die spirit. You can never give up, no matter how long it takes. Nothing will work the first time or the second time. You have to be willing to tweak and change your assumptions, your approaches, till you taste success. That takes time. Usually you're doing it on a shoestring, a lot of prayers. So I think that spirit is very important. You want to see people who have done difficult things and in spite of the odds have succeeded, okay, and see evidence of that in their past track record. I think that's very important.
Yeah, before I go to my next question, I think one of the really interesting things I learned from my father is that even though he was tackling all these, very big issues, he never went and approached anybody with a heavy heart. It was just an open heart, because I don't think the physical reality of India would really give you insight into aspirations. So he always spoke with people, and we had a lot of fun. He dragged us to all kinds of crazy places, and one incident I remember sitting with him in an airport, and somebody from the airport bookstore recognized him and came and peeked out and said, "Are you Dr. C.K. Prahalad?" And he said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, would you sign some books for me?" So the gentleman who had asked was, very nicely dressed in the pant and shirt, and his assistant came out in a lungi and shirt. And he kept flattering him as he handed him books, and he handed them to the assistant, and the assistant made no conversation at all. He basically started peeling off the old price tag and replacing it with a new price tag, 200 rupees higher. And I was a little appalled. I thought that was kind of rude. And when I left, my dad was almost just in tears laughing. He said, "We spent so long teaching MBA students opportunity sensing and everything." He said, "That's what it is. Either you've got it or you don't." And so I think he always had a sense of humor and a belief in India that allowed him to be very patient. I think the other thing that was interesting is even in the earliest versions of the paper and the ideas and experiments, he never assumed that people who were inside organizations and people who were fancied themselves very educated were there only to teach. He was always focused on what we could learn. And I just would like all of your reflections, since you've been approaching this in many different contexts. What do you think are some of the really important learnings in any context from engaging with the bottom of the pyramid?